So we already reorganized our code quite a bit. What's remaining here in the app module is the auth component. And we also got a couple of imports here, which we might not need in the app component anymore, because our app component already got pretty lean. Now, the forms module is still required because the auth component needs it, but we can definitely drop the reactive forms module. We need the HTTP client module because it turns out that this is a module that only sets up some global services, the injectable HTTP service, and we need that, so we will keep that. We need the app routing module. We need the recipes and the shopping list module and all these modules. But the reactive forms module could be dropped, and I also want to drop the forms module and get rid of the auth component here, because we can simply create a new feature module for that. I analyzed at the start of this module that this is our third feature area, and therefore creating a separate module would make sense. Again, definitely feel free to pause the video and try this on your own here. Outsource the auth component and its route into a separate feature module. Were you successful? To do it together, here in the auth folder, I'll add an auth module TypeScript file, and as before, export a class auth module, which receives our normal @ng module decorator. Now, here we, as you learned, need to declare whatever we're using in this module, and in the auth module, that is the auth component. So let's cut the auth component from the app module and move it here into declarations of auth module. Now for that, of course, we also need to add the missing import. Now the auth component is using certain Angular features which we should import. We need the common module in case we're using ngIf or ngFor, and you need to add the import to that as well. We also need the forms module because we're using the template-driven forms approach here in the auth component. That allows us now in the app module to get rid of that forms module. Now we can also import, maybe here, our auth module and make sure to add that import path, of course. But I also wanted to outsource my routes. So in the app routing module, let's grab that auth route here, remove it from the app routing module, and go to the auth module. And in here, simply add router module, which you import from @AngularRouter. And as you learned it, for child, and add this route. And if you put this into a separate routing file, into a separate routing module, and import that separate routing module into the auth module, that would have been correct as well. So now I have my auth module that focuses on all the auth related stuff. The auth service still is provided like this, and if you would provide it in a module, you would still keep it in the app module to have it available application-wide. But other than that, this is looking good. Let's now save it all and see if that works. And I'm getting an error. The app loading spinner is missing in the auth component or in the auth module. Now, do you know what the issue is here? Well, the app loading spinner, the loading spinner component, is defined in our shared module. And as I mentioned, you only have access to what you declare in a module. So if we need the loading spinner component in the auth module, we could add it to declarations, but double declarations are not allowed. So declaring it here and in the shared module is not allowed. Therefore, the solution is to simply import the shared module to get access to its features. And now with that, everything seems to work. If I now log out and I test the login flow again, first of all with invalid credentials, that works. And now with valid credentials, that also works. So now we also outsourced the auth related things into their separate feature module. Now that we covered the important module types you can find in an Angular app, with the feature module being the most important one, let's dive into our first optimization concept. Because thus far, this entire code splitting of separating our modules into separate modules was only cosmetical. It makes our code in the individual modules leaner, and it can help us with maintaining that code, but it doesn't influence the performance of our application at all. This will change now because now we'll have a look at a concept called lazy loading. And using multiple modules, to be precise, using multiple feature modules, is a prerequisite for that. Now, what is lazy loading? Consider this application. We have 3 routes, our root route /nothing, /products, and /admin. And of course, we have a user visiting this page. Now, every route is associated with a module, our app module, and then our different feature modules, where each module, of course, might have multiple components, multiple directives, pipes, and so on that belong to it. Now, when our user visits the root route, we, of course, load that first module, and we do the same when we visit the different other pages. Or do we? Well, actually, at the moment, when we're not using lazy loading, whenever we visit any page, we load everything. But wouldn't it make more sense to only load products and admin when we actually visit these pages? So that we only load the code that belongs to these areas of our application. That we only load the code that belongs to these areas when we really need it. That's the idea of lazy loading. With lazy loading, we initially only load our root route content, so only the app module code and the code of all the components that are registered there, and we don't load the other modules. And only when we visit another module, like the admin module, so the admin route here, we load the admin module code and the code of all the components that belongs to that module. And the effect or the advantage of this is that initially we download a smaller code bundle and we download more code when we need it, but initially our app is able to start faster because it has to download and parse less code on the first visit of a certain route. And that's the advantage. So let's now see how we do implement lazy loading in our app, and let's see its effect.